We've got some more coming in. All right, we are here to discuss House Study Bill 532. Thank you for your patience. I apologize for being late. We will be here today with Representative Meyer, Representative Shipley. As you know, the bill, you probably already know, but my job is to let you know what it says. It's an act relating to the definition of medical cannabinoid, being enacted by the General Policy State of Iowa. I'm going to start with talking to everybody first. I've gotten several emails. I've read through them. I'm sure others have comments on this, so we'll start with the folks around the room. We'll start over here, speaking toward, if you have something to say, and tell us where you're from.
Sure. Thank you. My name is Dane Schuman. I represent Touchdown, Iowa. We're registered in favor of the bill. And if I may, I'll just speak a little bit about what it does and why we're in favor of it.
Please.
So what the bill does is it really two things to get at one main objective, and that is that it strikes the provision in the code that requires that medical cannabis products in Iowa be what we call extracts. What an extract means is that the manufacturer of a cannabis product has to grow the marijuana plants in the facility and then extract the THC out of those plants, extract the CBD out of those plants, and create a bucket of THC on one side and a bucket of CBD on the other, and then create some kind of an artificial product for the patients to use under the program. What we do in striking that then is then replace the requirement that they be extracts with every product that's available today in our program currently, with the exception of the product that appears on line 20 of this, which is vaporized dried raw cannabis. And the reason that we have that product available in this bill is because if we can skip the extraction step, deliver the same THC and the same CBD molecules from the same plant that would otherwise be contained in an extract product, it dramatically lowers the costs for all the patients in the program, even those that don't want to use a dried raw cannabis form. It will cut our costs, if you look at it per gram of THC or however you want to look at it, by about in half. And what we hear consistently from patients in the medical cannabis program, even those that like the effects of what it delivers for them for their conditions, is that the program is simply too expensive to be. It's $100 to get a gram of THC today. If they've got a 4.5 gram THC limit that's governing them, which is what the vast majority of patients do have, that means they have to plop down $450 in cash every time they come visit a dispensary. They can't use credit card, they can't use health insurance. And for a lot of patients, 2/5 to about a third of which historically and still now have been on Medicaid or SSDI, that's pretty close to good. So that's what the bill does in a nutshell. That's why we brought it forward. We know that, just one other point I'll make, we are the only state really left in the country that is requiring extracts for their products. And the reason other states have moved away from requiring that is because of what I just described. It's very expensive to make. Patients have to buy that if they want to. So we really look at a state like Utah, for example, as being a good comparable to our program, where they've got a similar population. They allow vaporized flower products. They've got about 60,000 patients in their program. We have about 18,000 in ours. It's a very similar state in terms of its population. So I think it's a good analog, and that'll answer any questions or listen to anything else.
Thank you for the explanation.
We're
Just hanging out?
Yeah.
Good to have you. Thank you.
Kelly Myers, Iowa County Attorneys Association, Iowa Peace Officers Association. We're at one.
Chip Baltimore, also with Med Farm, so that can be covered.
Doug Strike, the Iowa State Bar Association, our criminal law section reviewed this, asked us to be supportive of it because they see some benefit when it is.
Karen Malone, Iowa HHS. I think we're going to piggyback off of what Lucas is about to tell you. We probably, we have some concerns from a public health perspective. We're obviously the regulator and overseer of the current program, looking to learn more. Thanks for your explanation, Dane. That's super helpful. And we're happy to answer any questions if you guys have specific questions. We have noticed in other states that do this, you'll see a big influx in people in the program. So like tens of thousands instances. So just be aware that that could be a byproduct of this for better or worse. And I think that's all of our comments, unless you guys.
Catherine Lucas from DPS. We also don't take a formal position on it, but wanted to present some of the facts. And one of the things that we have discussed is the huge growth of this. For example, the state of Minnesota went from 20,000 people to about 100,000 people using the medical program once it's added vaporizable flower or dried flower to it. It's our position, one of our main goals is to maintain, obviously, the safety of the roads and the interstates in the state. Of the traffic fatalities we had last year, the people that we did have toxicology results, about half of them had a controlled substance in their system, and by and large, the biggest amount of that was cannabis in their system for traffic fatality purposes. It's our position that if we're increasing the amount of people who can lawfully use cannabis 5-fold, 10-fold, whatever the math is on it, that we greatly increase the risk of impaired and intoxicated drivers in the state. Currently, there is no exception to the OWI provision for using medical marijuana. It's still an OWI under 321J. So any of this 100,000 new people, or however much it is, I'm just using that number, anytime they use the product and then drive, they would be, in fact, committing an OWI and a huge safety problem in the state of Iowa. The other issue that we'd like to bring up is this overall enforcement mechanism. It's twofold. One, if we're just selling dry flower now or bud, then law enforcement interacts with somebody and sees that they have the bud form with them. And if they have a medical card, it's essentially a get out of jail free card, regardless of whether they bought that form through a legal form like MedFarm, whether they bought it there or whether they bought it from a dealer on the street. There's no way for us to track it back to say, who did you lawfully buy this from? The same is true. The current framework limits how much you can buy per month, whether it's your 10 grams or however many grams you can buy. It doesn't limit how much you can possess. So if I have a lawful card, a medical card, I could have my minivan full of 20 pounds of bud marijuana, and that would be perfectly legal. So that's a huge safety or a huge public safety for us, a huge trafficking for us. There is no limitation that I can only possess personal use. I can only purchase personal use, but there's no limitation on how much I can possess at any given time. And we are seeing that happen currently anyway. We'll have folks with a lawful Colorado card with vape pens, and they'll drive through the state with clearly not personal use, and we can't do anything about it because of the medical. So we believe that increasing this range so-fold will just increase drug trafficking in the state and will will deter our enforcement efforts for what we can do with marijuana in place. So we're happy to take any other questions too, or I can refer you to our legislative liaison who is stuck in Denver and told me today to cover this up. So
I have a couple of questions,
Yeah.
and I'm sure others can ask as well. You touch on some of the things with the cannabis, and you said that the traffic fatalities, what was that percentage again?
it's almost half of our traffic fatalities in which we have toxicology.
Do you have that same study for alcohol?
I'm sure they do have it. I don't know what the number
Can I get that too, please?
Yeah, sure.
Representative?
One quick clarification. I think your initial statement was half the toxicology reports have a controlled substance.
Correct.
Was that controlled substance marijuana?
No, the largest factor of that is in marijuana. I didn't.
So the majority of the half is.
The majority of the half. I think it's 30-ish%, but again, I know where all these numbers are.
Now, do we know like the time of use? Because I think, when marijuana use would stay in a toxicology report for weeks, is my understanding, or a certain period of time. So it doesn't necessarily indicate that they maybe smoked that afternoon. They could have used it previously.
Correct. There's no scientific method to even correlate with the THC level in me is going to be the different THC level in your blood, just because different body fat compositions and things like that. So there's no mechanism to say this person was impaired or this person was not impaired.
So there's a lot of variables there, but it did show up in the toxicology report.
Yes.
Representative Meyer?
Thank you. And would BPS be willing to support? This has always been a problem for me on the 321J. Any level of narcotic or any level of marijuana would be considered, impaired, correct?
Correct, under the current three.
Under 221J.
Yep.
Would you be willing to dovetail off of what these gentlemen are saying? Give us the data, maybe Colorado does it, Illinois, whatever, that says this is the level that you are considered impaired. So we can fix 321J to comply with, if you have a card and you have it below this level, that you're not impaired. Because right now, like you said, the exception does not have anything for 321J. If you are pulled over, drug recognition officer, they do all of that. Any level of marijuana, effectively, is a WI.
Correct.
Would be, I know I can't.
Oh, this is like 5 levels above my pay grade.
The question is, would you give us what other states have done to create the impairment level and be willing to modify that code section to allow people with a card?
What, are you asking me?
No, I'm. Jeff, I already know his
Well,
answer.
do we have incidents of people being arrested and charged for, you know, maybe not being intoxicated at the time, but had previous usage that came up in a screening somehow and then?
There would have to be, this is the major compound question, there would have to be some type of probable cause to get the blood screen or the urine screen done in that situation. So there often is some indication of impairment anyway, or other probable cause somewhere to get that urine or drug sample. We're not just driving down the road and be like,
Well, so hypothetically, if someone goes visit their probation officer, fails it, well, I guess if they fail the drug screen to get arrested. Let's say they fail the drug screen and the probation officers give them a slap on the wrist, and then they drive home, they're also violating the law and committing another crime.
correct.
Yeah, okay.
To your answer regarding a per se limit, we can get you what other states do, but I want to add a big asterisk and caution that there is, we have, luckily in Iowa, we have call them the science nerds, but that's probably not nice. At University of Iowa, they have the drug driving simulator that they do over there. And so there's lots of information that comes from the University of Iowa about what the different levels of impairment mean. And a .02 for me and a .02 for you for alcohol is going to mean the same thing, but it doesn't mean the same thing for marijuana. If my THC levels, if your THC levels aren't going to mean the same amount of impairment.
Correct.
Right.
So
So
yeah, I understand what you're saying.
I'm
To
sympathetic.
get back to to get back to the original bill, yes, I'm supportive of this, I will sign off on it, but I just wanted to bring that up.
And I'm sympathetic with what you're asking for. I think that would improve things, so.
And I'm not done asking questions.
right.
No. You're still on the docket. So I just, how many dispensaries right now do we have medically in Iowa? We have 5, correct? I want to make sure we didn't open one last night. Just because the bill might be coming up. So with that, when you say that the use in Minnesota went up just dramatically, can we also take that to the fact that dispensaries opened up dramatically as well? So access was a lot more attainable? Because I believe that to be the case, but I'd like to know that. We only have 5 dispensaries. So access is very difficult. So I'm saying when I hear a stat like Minnesota grew exponentially, but so did the industry with dispensaries.
Well, and yeah, that would
I'm
be the
thinking.
same.
So I want to put a correlation to that as well.
We can follow up on that.
Okay, great. All right.
I'll sign off on it.
You want to go?
I have to run, but.
Anybody else want to talk? No.
That Cheney Gate is Plain Children's Hospital, we're monitoring. I just want to make sure there's a clear understanding, the way the bill is currently drafted, it would eliminate the authority of the board to recommend form and quantity recommendations. And when the code was first created, you did that in order to make sure there was a medical advisory board looking at all the research behind those decisions and putting those forth to the Board of Medicine. It took you as legislators out of that role of deciding, well, how much quantity of THC. It took that off your plate and put it with the medical experts. And so under the current bill, that authority is eliminated. And so you would find people coming back to you to make those changes.
Okay. Thank you.
Bob Schreck, I'm a doctor here in Des Moines. I'm also a member of the Iowa Medical Advisory Board, but I do not represent the board today. I heard about this meeting 30 minutes ago. And, well, I don't have my doctor's costume on. I apologize. Couple things here. First of all, nowhere in American medicine is there another compound molecule substance that's dispensed by combustion. It doesn't make medical sense. Look what we've done to cigarettes. You can't smoke in this room. You can't smoke in a restaurant. We panic when the smoke comes through from Canadian wildfires. We all go inside. Now you're gonna, if we promote, allow, or put the contributor on a combustible product and claim that it's medical, doesn't make sense. I'm talking to myself, an individual. I also have to be a cancer doctor. Semi-retired, but still active. So I've seen the effects of inhaling combustible products. Makes no sense at all. You go back to the beginning, as you did, the law specifically prohibited combustible. That was an essential feature of getting it passed in the first place. Now, understandably, things get set up, they're not passed in stone, and they get chipped away. I don't blame MedFarm, now known by the way, Blood and Mary's, that's their legal name now, for wanting to expand their market. Of course they do. I'll tell you, the Kemet Industries, which is MedFarm Iowa, is an impeccable, fantastic scientific organization, huge organization, family owned, extremely wealthy, very successful, and very technically correct. They could not produce a more pure medical product. With the extraction techniques they use, the quality and the standards they employ. It's not a comment on their marketing intentions. They would love to see it go up 5-fold, 2-fold. I don't blame them one bit for that. But this is a medical program. This is not a recreational program. Medical programs have been tradition and stalking horse for recreational programs. I'd like to see Iowa remain the one interested in that. It's the only one that's remained in that position. Cost is an issue. There's no doubt there's a cost. I don't know where we stand yet on getting rid of the cash only issue, which I know some other states have been able to do. Right now they got to walk in with cash. There's lots of problems with our program, but maintaining it as a medical program is essential. But you want a solution to cost? Go down to the Star Bar in Ingersoll, walk next door to the old clothing store, walk into dispensary, DES, not DIS, dispensary, a hemp sales organization, walk over to the right side, get over to the cooler, pull out a 12-ounce can of a flavored liquid. You can do this on your way home tonight. Look at it. 100 milligrams of THC. Perfectly legal. $15. 1/3 of what they claim it costs now. So if somebody wants a cheaper THC, that's what they're after. It's infinitely available now in the state of Iowa and legally so. Now there, you may be asked to change the law, change the hemp law. That's not really the spirit here today. You may at some point be asked to change the hemp law. But please, do not corrupt an excellent medical program by feeding to this nonsense of promoting combustibles.
Leslie Carpenter with Iowa Mental Health Advocacy. I absolutely concur with the doctor here. From the standpoint, from a mental health standpoint, there is a higher level of addiction when somebody is using a combustible compared to other forms. And he's absolutely right about the health effects. And here you are prescribing something for a medical use and asking them to smoke it. And he's right about those THC products with high THC product levels. In other states, like in Colorado and Washington, what they're finding with that is increased psychosis, increased schizophrenia, increased car accidents, increased cannabis use disorders, increased hyperemesis. I can't say the word, but somebody's throwing up repetitively because of that. Going down that pathway is a dangerous pathway, and I would encourage you to not smoke.
Teresa Arts, I'm here today on behalf of the Epilepsy Foundation of Iowa. We're monitoring the bill. We have had some epileptologists reach out and express concern with the definition of the program. So it's when you created the program and when you all created the program in 2017, it was defined as medical cannabidiol, but that's really not what it is, medical cannabis program. And so now that Iowa has a consumable hemp program, which is cannabidiol program. Maybe, I know those are both under the provision of the Department of Health and Human Services, that might be one consideration for you guys to actually call the program what it is. Scientifically, medically, it is a medical cannabis program, not a medical cannabidiol program.
Is there anybody else? Spirited conversation. I think there's a lot of questions, and there's also some room for possible pause, but I think we should all talk about it. I need to, Representative Meyer already signed off and said yes. Representative Shipley, how do you feel about it? Where you at?
I think it's a very great discussion. I appreciate everyone's perspective and point of view. I'm comfortable moving this forward to the full committee to get more voices and more opinions on the matter. So I'm happy to sign off today. I think there's a lot of ways to interpret the various things we're hearing. For instance, one thing that sticks out, we talk about the massive growth of the program. You say, well, that's a bad thing, or you can say, oh, that's a big portion of people that wanted help, and now they're able to get it, and if that's the health care that they seek, and if they're instructed by a physician, who would I be to prevent them from getting that? So I think there is a lot of information come to the table. I think there are a lot of perspectives, and it is an experiment. And obviously, there's been a lot going on in the healthcare world. There's a lot of things. I think the most interesting is this conversation with you referring to the Delta 9 THC product, which we were discussing a little bit before the meeting. And I think that's where I'm very, very confused on the legal framework that exists to regulate those new things coming to the market. I've heard it explained multitude different ways. Seems like the people of Iowa are just, again, I don't know what attorneys are advising some of these shops, but they're going ahead and doing it. And it was, so anyway, I think this is an important discussion. I think it's something we need to bring in the full committee on and keep talking about.
So we know how the process works, and quite honestly, this is a spirited conversation. I believe there is room in this bill for amendments or whatever might be brought to the table. But I do believe it is a spirited conversation, one that Iowans are having as well. One of the things that came to me from somebody that has a medical card is it's the purest form. It's less touches. It's all sorts of things. It's less money, of course, as well. In my opinion, we go to committee, we hash it out, we determine what needs to be changed, if anything, what amendment needs to be brought to the fourth to make it palatable, if at all. I understand. But that's not this subcommittee's job. It is a committee's job in the larger form. So I appreciate all the input. With that, we will take it on to committee.
Can I just make I just want to connect some dots. So DOC has a bill this year that's going to,
Yeah, so it's related to medical cannabis cards and for people who are in the Department of Corrections.
so this is a problem for DOC as well, that piece. And then DPS is also going to have a bill dropping related to consumable hemp.
Yes, we have a pre-file that LSA has had since November that has not go through yet that will address some of the consumable hemp issues and
So Delta 9 THC, we're calling that consumable hemp?
according to the dispensary it is, yes. It's really, we can talk about it later, but it has.
I don't have a background in chemistry, but maybe I need to. So.
I feel like I want to.
I'll just ask the chat GPT and see what they want to put.
I just wanted to connect some dots because as things move really fast through committee, like it might be nice to kind of take a holistic look at the package.
I would have loved that conversation when we started, honestly, and I'm glad we have it now.
Yeah.
But I think by the reasons that I explained, that's another committee, that's another subcommittee. So we need to take this to the full committee, make the changes necessary, not take it any further, but let that be a larger body than this one. I'm signing off.
Yep, good. No, I'd love, okay, I just don't want to waste your time.
Yes.
We need to get. Amanda, we also have a fancy graphic one pager that explains these Delta 9, these dense ones. I can go ahead and